or Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game, is an open-world isometric turn-based RPG developed and published by Interplay in 1997. I realize this is probably the most mainstream franchise I've ever decided to talk about, so I acknowledge that y'all probably already know what Fallout is. But in case you haven't heard of it, or been to a Walmart or something, it's a series of RPGs that was originally made exclusively by Interplay because the guys that made this game called Wasteland in 1988 wanted to make a sequel to Wasteland, but they made the error of going through EA to publish that game. 20 years and some change, and EA was just as EA as they are today, and refused to let go of the Wasteland IP. They even went as far as developing their own in-house sequel to Wasteland called Fountain of Dreams in 1990. But when that game turned out to be a huge disappointing failure, EA stopped acknowledging it as a sequel to Wasteland. Which is fair, I mean nobody that made Wasteland made this one or had any input on it, so why even do this? In any case, Fallout was a huge success and reaped masses of praise, awards, appearances on lists of not only best games of 1997, but of best games. My own history with the Fallout franchise did not begin at the original Fallout, however. My first experience with the world of Fallout was a game that would be released 4 years later called Fallout Tactics: Brotherhood of Steel. It was not the most well-received entry in the series, and when Bethesda took control and began work on Fallout 3, they mostly discarded it as non-canon, due to some of the odd decisions and inconsistencies in it that they opted not to try and write around. But I was fascinated by this game and the world it presented. It was violent and gritty with a jet black sense of humor, and so it wasn't long before I decided to seek out the original, and after Bethesda took the reins and made Fallout 3, I'm sure a lot of people did the same thing. It had always surprised me that they chose to name it Fallout 3, because undoubtedly it would lead people unfamiliar with the series to want to catch up with the others. And it had been 10 years since a proper sequel had come out, so there were probably many who were unfamiliar with the original Fallout, and indeed unfamiliar with classic RPGs. Even in 1997, Fallout was a throwback RPG, so much so that it had originally been planned to use the generic Universal Role-Playing System, or GURPS. Interplay had licensed the use of this tabletop game system in order to mimic the experience of playing a tabletop RPG on a computer. It was even originally titled Fallout: A GURPS Post-Nuclear Adventure. So obviously there is a world of difference between Fallout and the Fallout games to come, and the confusion that stirred among new fans of the franchise was evident and to some degree understandable. The transition from first-person shooter to slow-paced tactical RPG proved to be rough. I saw a lot of confused fans either intimidated by it or frustrated by how impenetrable it seemed. It looks difficult to understand. It seems like too much. It's like when you try to pull out a complicated board game with friends over and you see their eyes glaze over while you explain the rules. And to established fans of games like Fallout, Icewind Dale, and Arcanum, the new games felt like a betrayal, like a beloved niche was taken and distributed to a bunch of console gamers. Those dummies. Shit. I get that too. Maybe more so than the first group I talked about, but I have no intention of lording my obviously superior taste in video games over people who just can't get into the original Fallout. Having said that, so one of the most appealing and impressive things about Fallout as a whole is of course the world of Fallout. Even in its first outing, this game knows full well what Fallout is. The world we know in future installments was already so fully realized from the get. It takes place in a United States that has lived over 100 years in a divergent timeline that split somewhere between the 1940s and 1960s. In this timeline, technology advanced rapidly, but culture, society, and politics sort of stagnated in the 1950s. This gave the world Fallout's signature aesthetic, which has had many names applied to it, be it diesel punk, atom punk, retro futurism, ray gun gothic. This was a world where the 1950s vision of the future was brought to life in the 21st century. Think The Jetsons meets Mad Max or Forbidden Planet meets A Boy and His Dog. 2 examples is good. At some point, the Earth's dwindling supplies of oil and uranium sparked conflict between several nations. The Earth is decimated and left in ruins, save for a couple survivor settlements and those lucky enough to have waited the whole thing out in one of several fallout shelters called vaults, placed all over the country. What was originally advertised as safe haven for the best and brightest of humanity is revealed to have all manner of strange and sinister purposes. So while some lived out generations underground in relative safety, others were subjected to bizarre social and scientific experiments. Some were simply opened and destroyed by people after their technology and supplies. Aside from roving gangs of raiders constantly warring with one another, there are groups of mutants, ghouls, giant scorpions, and rats, and all manner of grotesque shit that crawled out of the mushroom cloud. Amidst all this sits Vault 13, a mostly successful vault that has been operational for a long time until a vital piece of Vault Tech equipment breaks down, their water purifier. So you, as one of 3 ready-made characters, or one you choose to make from scratch, are sent into the wasteland to find a replacement water chip. Throughout your time exploring Fallout, there are many side quests and tasks you can get caught up in, but there are 3 main goals necessary to achieve the most ideal ending. 1. You certainly need to find that water chip. The search for that will lead you through abandoned vaults, merchant villages, and a city of ghouls. As time passes, you will be shown anxiety-inducing cutscenes of the crew of Vault 13, looking utterly defeated as their water supply drops. 2. Armies of super mutants, that is large, violent green people that came from a mad scientist experiment occurring independently from the whole toxic radiation business happening, are appearing in growing numbers, and whatever laboratory is pumping them out needs to be destroyed. This is accomplished with aid from the Brotherhood of Steel, a quasi-religious remnant of the military that researches and hoards advanced technology and weapons. Finally, a cult called the Children of the Cathedral wants to bring about the next phase of evolution by intentionally exposing people to the mutant virus. That needs to not happen. That's bad. So those are the main goals, and along the way you'll come across a whole bunch of other groups of people trying to either maintain order or take advantage of others, and however you choose to insert yourself in these struggles is reflected in the final moments of the game, where we get a little montage of how we've affected the wasteland and what legacy we've left behind. At the end, maybe you save your vault, maybe you make some friends along the way, but the game rightly ends on a melancholy, bittersweet note. It's very hard to create something like a happy ending in such a relentlessly dark world. You did what you could for a few people and scored one for the good guys, but in the end, you're heading right back into a world full of bad guys. It's not entirely a downer. Fallout is full of tons of dark, sardonic humor and cute little pop culture references. One of my favorite non-sequitur random encounters is a used car salesman trying to sell the burnt out husks of ancient cars as though they were fresh off the factory line. Just hopelessly delusional. It's sort of depressing in the most wonderful way. There's another moment when you think you've freed some people being held captive by the Children of the Cathedral. You're free, my brothers and sisters. Go! Live your... God damn it. To this day, its story, its world, its tone, its atmosphere are all a clear labor of love, and it still works. The cleverness and inventiveness of Fallout's world continues to be an anomaly to me. It's fucking great. I don't need to tell anyone that Fallout has a great story. I'm sure you could just Google best RPG of all time and this would appear somewhere eventually. If I could just do this correctly for fucking sucker. Let's see what we got here. Y'all been playing that Harry Potter game on the phone? This shit's fucking rigged. I'm not seeing it. Number 38? That's not that great. What do they got ahead of it? Fuck this. You know what? It's okay. It's okay. Everyone's got a different opinion, and times have changed substantially. We're not in the 90s anymore. I've got to be more accepting of that if I hope to maintain some kind of grip on reality. I can't believe this for you fucking kids. You're all asleep. You're all asleep. So this is the thing that's sort of divisive. And it's not just a new development because of the new games being first person with real-time combat. In the middle of Fallout's development, Diablo was released, and Interplay really wanted to get into the real-time action RPG business. Even the Ultima series was beginning to abandon core RPG game principles. People wanted that instant gratification of real-time combat, and Interplay was very concerned that Fallout's gameplay would feel outdated. But producer Tim Kaine resisted pressure to compromise the work he put into Fallout's game engine. Further pressure was put onto him after Interplay dropped substantial funds on the rights to the Forgotten Realms and Planescape Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. His final opportunity to buckle under the pressure came at the 11th hour, when Steven Jackson Games, the creator of the GURPS system, that was central to Fallout's gameplay, realized how violent and dark a game Fallout would be, and decided against the partnership. So mere weeks before this game needed to be finished, it was up to the development team to dream up and program a complete replacement to the fucking thing they were trying to justify keeping this whole time, but somehow they pulled it off and came up with the skill system and rules in 2 weeks, and gave us what we now know as Special. Strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. These are the 7 basic attributes that make up your character. I should clear this up. This is a traditional RPG, so what you'll be doing is controlling your character from an isometric perspective in a point-and-click style. The primary hurdle you might have to get through is basically just accepting that this is in every sense an RPG, a term that gets thrown around a lot and applied to games that might not entirely fit the description of what role-playing game was meant to imply. Everything you do is a dice roll, and sometimes things that rationally seem like absolutes could result in critical failures. This is why we get people complaining that, they're standing in front of a rat with a knife and they're swinging at it and they're missing, and they're like, why am I missing it? I'm standing right in front of it. Well, for starters, your character has not progressed enough to make this action easy. And you may have made it more difficult for yourself if you tried to make a character that was all super balanced, middle of the road, putting points in every little skill you have. I can see the frustration that could come with this, but if you don't have points allotted to the act of using a melee weapon, you're not going to be able to use that melee weapon very well. The dice will not favor you in this act. But also, I think you're underappreciating how difficult it might actually be to just fumble through a cave and stab a rat with a knife. Well, to avoid things like this, you need to apply points to some of your 18 different skills. You can also tag 3 of your skills as your primary skills, and they will rise at a higher rate than untagged skills. Aside from leveling up, you can also increase your skills permanently by reading books or undergoing surgery, and for more temporary solutions, you can take drugs, but just like real ones, they can become addictive and have adverse effects on your character. But also like real life, sometimes you really need to become smart for 5 minutes so you can sew your leg back on or something.
Who are you? Death. Cool.
Honestly, some of these skills are not fully necessary if all you're looking to do is make it to the end of the game. Really, you need 1 combat skill tagged, so small arms or energy weapons are a safe bet. You're going to have a hard time if you don't have a halfway decent lockpick and repair skill. Like anything in this game, there is always a way to circumnavigate needing them. Like if your lockpicking skill is low, it can be increased by using a lockpick set, instead of what you normally do, I guess, which is wiggle your insidious villain fingies into the keyhole and force open doors. I'm just telling you shit you'll need if you're intimidated by an old school RPG, because by description you can play this game however you want. Not once did I use sneak, but by all means do a character build that's all sneak and thrown weapons and bartering. I mean, good luck, but I'd imagine once you're familiar and comfortable with Fallout, you could probably make that work. You're good at bartering, so you can buy a lot of throwing knives, and I guess, I don't know, you could sneak past people so you don't waste your knives. I don't know. You also have traits, which are decided during character creation, and these are usually a trade-off, boosting one stat and lowering another. And every 3 levels you will get to add a perk, which are just ways to improve your character that are purely helpful and don't have any drawbacks. So there's a lot of ways to prepare yourself for the journey ahead and weigh the odds in your favor. There will always be a challenge though, and you can always find yourself in a situation you're not ready to take on. Outside of combat, you're going to be traveling to different locations on your map. And during regular play, you can move around your character at will, talking to people, searching things, getting quests. your movement isn't entirely a full free range of motion. You move along a hexagonal grid, and that makes more sense during combat, but outside of it, it might seem a bit strange how your character just sort of serpentine sprints everywhere you go. Moving on the map could lead to random encounters. These could be dangerous, like coming across a band of raiders, or they could be helpful, like a traveling merchant. They could also just be a fun diversion from the main story. What traveling also does is rapidly consume time. Moving to a location, say 12 squares away, could take up to a week to get there. If this doesn't concern you, you're an idiot. Your people are dying every second. It's okay. It's okay. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you were too busy disappointing me to remember that you have 150 days to get a new water chip or your vault, and everyone you care about dies. So maybe think things through before you go off gallivanting in the desert. This is probably the most daunting thing about Fallout, that I was certainly bothered by on my first playthrough. The clock is always ticking, and if you run out of time, the game is over. And even if you bring the chip back and neglect the super mutant problem for too long, they will find your vault and invade it. Thankfully, time moves rather slow outside of the world map, and you can accomplish several goals in one location in only a day or two. The threat of time becomes much less discouraging the more you become used to how this game works, you become better at plotting out your next move, and your character becomes more capable of facing threats. Like the newer ones, you can pick up companions to follow you around, but they won't be nearly as interesting or helpful. I'll give the new ones the one up on that. What they will do a lot more is walk in front of enemies you are trying to shoot. The most helpful thing they can do is just sort of act as a meat shield between you and your enemies. Well, thanks for your service, guys. You made it a whole 2 turns. And I'll admit, even though it wasn't as impossible a task as it initially seemed, and certainly not the second time around, I do find the whole business of right from the outset putting a timer on an open world game, with a great world no less, sort of regrettable. The second you step out of that vault, it should feel like you could go anywhere and roleplay this game as you see fit, but it really puts a tight leash on your exploration, for as long as this is your main goal. I can totally understand someone being turned off by this notion and not wanting to play this game at all, because that was exactly the struggle I went through my first time. Here is this fun, creative, and interesting world for you to explore. But every second you spend not thinking about that main quest, you are tightening the noose around your own people. It's counterproductive to immersion in an open world game, and it's clear that Tim Kaine also thought so, but a bit too late. If this proves to be a roadblock for you, there are plenty of patches to alter that, or you could probably just read a walkthrough and get an idea of what needs to be done so you can manage your time. There is a lot to do and find in Fallout, and I've played it twice, and there are things I know I didn't do or take the time to look at, avenues of possibility left unexplored. What if I didn't kill those people earlier? How would the wasteland be affected by that? Well, they probably would have killed me, but I did shoot first. But I was trying to help the mayor's daughter, but I probably would have done it anyway because I enjoyed it. I like the way this game looks. I can think of something better than that. This is not a real phone!
You cannot
Honestly,
ignore me. You will
great.
listen.
I mean, I don't feel
I am
like I have to
everywhere.
qualify
I am
because
all
it's an
around you.
old graphical
I always
style.
will be.
I can just say that I fucking like it because, like, I like it, you know? Alright, I got it.
You've got nothing.
I like the way this game looks.
You are not good.
It's good. I adore this style of animation and this perspective, and even though it's not a game that demands a lot visually, what it does with what it has is very effective. If Fallout was only a representation of a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles, they clearly would have pulled that off, but the fact that they have added on to that, the unique aesthetic of pre-apocalypse 2077, coated in decades of rust and ash, everything has a quirky, unique style to it. It's this wonderfully fucked up world that takes 1950s pulp fiction tropes and drags them into a dark, satirical Mad Max nightmare, proving that you can be taken to another world with 30 dudes, 3 years, and a copy of Photoshop. Characters and outfits are designed really fun, and there are tons of cute idle animations like when you pull out a pistol and your character does a little cowboy twirl with it. Some of the death animations are absolutely brutal and nearly overpower the glee you get from killing someone. It's like, yeah, I won, but at what cost? Some of the more important characters get an animated talking head to interact with, and these were pretty expressive and well animated for the time. They were achieved by making real sculpted heads of these characters for the computer artists to study and figure out which bits would need the most attention. They then used what's called a Faro space arm to digitally scan the clay head and run it through modeling software. I think this worked out great because these talking head segments are one of the closest looks we get at the world of Fallout. They had originally planned to do about 50 of these, but eventually cut it down to 21 because it turns out digitizing one of these heads takes about 8 weeks. And Interplay wasn't exactly in the business of believing in this project. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the opening cutscene, because to this day it's one of the most captivating things in a video game. It depicts a black and white television cutting between horrific war coverage and cheesy optimistic ads for cars and butler robots, like a tacky 1950s veil put over the tailspin humanity is in. We pan out to see that in the end, we weren't as advanced and progressive as we thought, and all we're left with are the bones of this supposed ideal society. And it is all set to the song Maybe by the Ink Spots. This is all followed by a line any Fallout fan should be familiar with.
War never changes.
Although according to Ironstorm, at least its face can change. So I don't know what the deal with that is. Aside from Ron Perlman, who's great, he's a staple of Fallout at this point, there are tons of great voice actors. A lot of VO veterans, if you will. And they all create a fun, quirky mix of cartoony kind of voices. In a game where, you know, people get super dead and shot in the face and other bits. Fallout has one of the most understated and underappreciated ambient soundtracks ever made for a game, or a movie, or any visual medium. It's like one of few things about any game I can say is just immaculate. This is exactly what it should be, an eerie, resonating, ghostly soundscape. Every location sounds like you're walking through the specter of humanity and catching little glimpses and memories of the war machine that ended us. For all the dark humor and silliness this game can offer, there is nothing funny about this soundtrack. I don't know how they've done it, but this is most assuredly what the apocalypse will sound like, and it's just as unnerving as it should be. I don't think I'll live to see through it though. I'm gonna be way dead before I let this shit come to life. I'm gonna be dead. I mean, it's not like I needed to say it, or that you needed to watch it, or that I needed to make this, but Fallout is a fantastic game. There's a rich, inventive world out there for you to explore. Full of fun characters, lots of humor, lots of creepy, gross shit, challenging and rewarding gameplay, great soundtrack, great voice acting. It's great. I bet it's better than anything you've played. I'm gonna cut that part out. I'm not gonna stand here and say because this game was so revered and showered with praise when it came out that you have to like it and you have to respect it. Just don't like it for the right reasons. You know, maybe this whole theme just doesn't vibe with you. Maybe some of the more bothersome glitches got to you a bit too much. I know in one of my playthroughs where there's this gang you gotta get rid of and this other guy hires you to like frame them. So I went over and I tried to talk to him and I think it had something to do with me being a woman. Like I think that factored into it. Or I don't know, it was some kind of perk that didn't match up the way it did the first time I played it, and this guy just didn't want to talk to me, and one of the only options was essentially to start a fight with him, which causes you to have to kill everybody in the gang. But see, that's what was going to happen anyway once you framed them. So I killed all them, went back to the guy that hired me, said, hey, I got what I needed to frame them, because that's all I could say. I couldn't say, yeah, things got out of hand and I killed all of them. So he's like, oh great, we got them. Let's go over there and kill them. And so you go over there, guess what? They're all alive again, and you gotta kill them all again. And, you know, obviously a bad example of the programming, but hey, it works to your benefit because you get double the XP for killing them. If you're one of these dummies, you know, giving negative reviews on it, just because it's a genre you don't like or don't understand or don't have the time to look at and comprehend and figure out, that doesn't mean it's a bad game, because it's a great game. It's a fun game. You play it all the time. You gotta play it! Don't be like these dummies over here, because these dummies, they're real dummies. I'm gonna tell you why they're dummies. We're gonna do some review reactions. Hashtag me reactions to reviews. I don't know how to do hashtags, guys. The problem is that it doesn't show a tutorial at all. That's because older games had a little more faith in our ability. Also, it's in the manual. Games used to have manuals. Bad controls. Well, not really. I had no trouble controlling any aspect of this game. No direction, no tutorial. The controls are terrible. The turn-based sucks. Well, there is direction. You have to get the new water chip. The rest is up to you because it's a role-playing game. Again, there is a manual, or press F1 or fucking whatever. The controls are mostly clicking, so I don't know what you had trouble with there. And the turn-based combat it's a fine example of turn-based combat. That just sounds like a thing you don't like. That doesn't make it a bad game. It makes it a thing you don't like. The legendary RPG masterpiece known as Fallout is a fucking dumpster fire of bugs, glitches, and overall poor game design. I don't really know what constitutes as a bug or a glitch to you. If you have such an intolerance for glitches and bugs, I'd ask you to retract your recommendation of Fallout New Vegas. So, cards on the table, I was going to insert a clip of a Fallout New Vegas glitch right here, because I thought that would be funny. But the first video I found was this guy's, and he seems to have a problem with people sharing it, and I didn't want to go through the whole bullshit of asking him for permission, because he seems like an unpleasant person. But you guys get the idea, right? Like, the game's got a lot of glitches. I expected this to be a older style with a moving... I expected this to be a older style with a moving with mouse, I don't know what it's called, but kind of Diablo style kind of RPG. Instead it was turn-based game. Not for me. I respect how people played this and how it was old, but I'm just not a fan. Well, I'm glad you respect that people played this and that it was old. But not being interested in the genre, especially one that doesn't hide what it is, doesn't warrant a bad review. People play sports games all the time, and while I think sports games are dumb and stupid and a waste of time, I understand that there is fundamentally nothing there for me, so my opinion on what makes a good sports game is worthless. Time to be that guy. It's really not. Standing 1 foot away with my gun pointing at a rat's head and I miss, I don't remember picking autism as one of my traits. Well, clearly you didn't pick one-hander or finesse as one either, otherwise you'd have a better chance at hitting it, because it's an RPG. I think with enough patience you could get used to the control scheme and enjoy this. From what I have heard, it is still a very good RPG. I would be willing to try out a remake if it ever came out. Why? It already exists as it was supposed to. You already own it. You could play it right now. This is your moment. Maybe old, but I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by the 0.1 hours you played it before coming to that conclusion. Unplayable from today's perspective. Well, I just played it, so how do you explain that? No first person. Did you look at a screenshot and think I bet there's a first person mode that they're not advertising? There's gotta be. Fucking dumb. Can't say I enjoyed what I played, unfortunately. The controls are pretty weird. Oh, didn't enjoy that 5 minutes? You have weird controls. Fuck you. Look, so obviously the internet's a great place. You can share your opinions and you know, connect with other people that are misguided and foolish as you. But hyperbole aside, I understand. You know, it's at this point, weirdly enough, I'm coming to terms with the fact that some people out there can see this game as being kind of old and stuffy, and indeed this genre as old and stuffy. So it's fine if you don't want to play this game, and it's fine if you don't like the genre or respect the effect Fallout has had on the course of video game history. I think you're wrong. I think you're a dummy. I think you're a very dumb, stupid asshole. That's fine. This is what the internet's for. I think I was just compelled to talk about this game after becoming angry intentionally making myself angry reading bad reviews for a classic game. I don't have a good excuse, but maybe there's somebody out there that's apprehensive about trying out Fallout because it looks old and difficult, and you know, games were harder back then. And I just wanted to let you know, if you're one of these people, this game's a lot more accessible than it looks, and it doesn't hurt. You're not going to lose cred if you look up help. Watch a video, read a walkthrough. I don't give a shit. Just experience a good game. And look, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's a hard game. It's frustrating. While playing this at least twice, I put my headphones down. I turned away. I said, I hate this game. And then I did something else for an hour, and then I came back to it. And that's how you know it's love. But at the same time, you could fucking beat a death claw while you're on 1 hit point. And then feel something, the closest word I can call it is spiritual. Well, it's the closest I'm ever going to get to feeling that. I mean, at this point, my opinion of it is completely warped and broken beyond being a reliable source of information, because I can't be the one to tell you, the original Fallout is the best Fallout and it's better than these new Fallouts, which is of course pretty accurate. My view of it is already tainted because I played these first. There's no critical merit to that. I don't want to get into it, but the newer games, they're all right. I've played all of them. I've played all of them a lot. I was happy to be back in the world of Fallout, and it was great seeing Fallout being taken seriously and legitimately after years of just kind of being in the garbage. That was fine. But there's no excuse for being shitty to the old ones because you came in on the new ones, and you don't like old school RPGs. There's merit to both. We can cross sides here. We can shake hands. Fallout 4 fans can put their fucking Mountain Dew down and I'm sorry, that was me. We can all play each other's games. We can all be open-minded, I think. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know if that's what I was trying to say.
I'm always working to shed my own skin, stealing time.